Thanks, Wonder Science, for that song reminding us how much God cares for us. You will be realizing that our service is slightly different because we are trying to innovate to help you encounter God, to help you best encounter God online. And we hope that you are opened, and please share with us, your experience and even your thoughts. Well, we are on this series called I'm Not Okay, and because we hope that it will be honest, a message for the creatives. And I think our point is that it is okay to not be okay, but being able to honestly admit that and to admit why will help you not stay the same and find the answers. So last week we did this message called I'm Not Okay because nothing has changed, and we look into the life of Elijah, a great prophet who did some out of the world kind of miracles, and still he found that nothing had changed. So he was depressed and he ranted to God, and God met with him in a gentle whispers. God usually shows up in our quiet and personal moments with him. And then Elijah realized that something was changing. Maybe not according to how he wanted it to be, but with God, change is always happening. So today, we want to give you a chance to be honest. Why don't you tell us in the comment below what will make you not okay? All right, just comment below, no judgment, because it's okay to be not okay. For me, one of the things that make me not okay is when I feel like no one cares. I was accidentally, I typed that word because I wanted to actually look for our post, but when I typed that word, no one cares, I was shocked to find out that on Facebook alone, there are more than 80 Facebook groups called No One Cares Group. And one of the largest groups was more than 500,000 people. And the second was more than 300,000 people. So it's safe to say that this, kind of really resonates with a lot of people feeling like no one cares. And if that's you, it's okay to be not okay because no one cares. But our hope is that this message will help you not to stay that way. So today, we are looking at the life of Joseph. Now, Joseph is a real historical guy, all right? I know there's a musical called Joseph with the multicolored coat, and he's kind of like famous for that. But he's actually the son of Jacob, and he's actually the favorite son of Jacob because he's a son of his old age. And Joseph had 10 other brothers from other mothers, and they were living in the land of Canaan, and they were shepherds. And the story kind of started when he was 17 years old. So this is starting from Genesis 37. So verse 5, Joseph had a dream. And he told his brother his dream. So this is his dream. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field. And behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf. Then he had another dream. This time it was the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to him. What do you think were the response of the brothers? Were they excited that he's going to be somebody that's great and a ruler? No. They didn't care. In fact, they were mad and jealous. And they thought that he was trying to rule over them. He hated them. They hated him even more. And sometimes it feels like no one cares about your dream, right? Just like Joseph. When he shared, he was misunderstood. And the brothers not only hated him, they tried to kill his dream. Same chapter 37, verse 20. This was the day when he was sent to look for his brothers. They were, looking after the sheep, obviously. And when they saw him coming from afar, verse 20 says this, the brothers talking to one another saying, come now, let us kill him, throw him into the pits. And then we just say that a fierce animal has devoured him. And we will see what will become of his dreams. But Reuben, the eldest brother, stopped them and said, no, we don't do that. We can throw him in the pit, but don't kill him. But later on, there was some caravan and Ishmaelite traders passing by. So the brother decided to sell him for money. And he took out his clothes, and there went Joseph to Egypt. If you were Joseph, how would you have felt towards the brothers? Would you have been so angry? How can you be okay when your family misunderstood you? And worse still, they tried to kill your dreams. And how about towards God? Wouldn't you be screaming, no one cares? Even God doesn't care about my dreams. Where's my dreams now? So the story continued with Joseph being sold as a slave to the house of Potiphar, an officer to Pharaoh. And he did well. He was diligent. So he found favor, from Potiphar. And Potiphar made him the overseer of his house and put him in charge of everything. In fact, verse 5 in chapter 39 says that because of Joseph, Potiphar had no concern about anything but the food he ate. So Joseph was having a good life, but not for long. Then Potiphar's wife saw that Joseph was handsome in form and appearance, and she took a liking on him, and she kept wooing him to come lie with her. Now Joseph was a very honorable man, so he said to her, how can I do this to my master? This is such great wickedness, and it's a sin against God. So she continued to woo him, and he continued to deny. But one day, while he was working, she caught him at his garment and said, come lie with me. But he ran and left his garment in her hand and fled from the house. And she immediately screamed and pretending that Joseph was the one that came into her room and tried to rape her. So when Potiphar heard that, Potiphar was so angry, he immediately put Joseph into the prison where the king's prisoners were also kept confined. You see, not only no one cares about your dreams, sometimes it feels like no one cares about your reputation. Joseph was wrongly accused, and it was not even his problem. It was Potiphar's wife's problem. And Potiphar didn't even want to hear him out. And what about all the servants? Didn't they see the way that the Potiphar's wife was? But no one cares about the truth. And no one cares about rescuing Joseph's reputation. If you were Joseph, how would you have felt towards Potiphar? You worked so hard to make this man so successful, and in return, he sent you to prison. He didn't want to even hear your explanation. How about the wife? This is unbelievable, right? This is unfair, and this is wicked. How about God? Doesn't it feel like no one cares? And even God doesn't care about my reputation. Now the story continues. Joseph then in the prison, he worked hard again. The keeper of the prison had a liking towards him and put him in charge of all the prisoners. And one day, two guys came. They worked for Pharaoh. They were the cupbearer and the baker. Pharaoh had some offenses towards them and threw them there temporarily. And these two guys had a dream. Both had a dream. And they were troubled because they were looking for people to interpret their dreams. And Joseph, taking care of them, said to them, do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, and I will help you interpret. So the chief cupbearer shared his dream, and Joseph interpreted for him and said that in 3 days, you will be restored back to your office. So the chief baker then also quickly shared his dream. But for him, the interpretation was that after 3 days, you will be put to death. And true enough, on the third day during Pharaoh's birthday, they had a feast. The baker was put to death, but the chief cupbearer was put back to his position. And verse 23 was a sad verse because it says the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph and forgotten about him. No one cares about your dreams. No one cares about your reputation. And the worst of all is it feels like no one cares about you at all because they have forgotten about you. They've forgotten what you have done. After all the help and care he gave, no one cared for Joseph. So if you were Joseph, how would you have felt towards people? I mean, by now I would have given up hope on people. Why would I even care for people anymore? How about God? No one cares. And even God, He doesn't care for me. Maybe that's where you are. And you are hurting. And maybe that's what brought you here. It's okay to be not okay when you feel like no one cares. And I've been there many, many times. But I'm glad that I didn't give up on people and I didn't give up on God. You know, Joseph also didn't do that. So I want to encourage you, to take a moment now and invite God to help you hang on there because God never fails. Joseph believed that the God that he believes will never fail him. I want to invite Keith to come and sing the song and minister to you so that you too, in your own privacy, in your own quiet and personal moments, can come to see that you have a God that never fails. The truth is, God cares. But earlier, I was just busy looking at the part where no one cares. And that's how sometimes we missed out on the part that God cares. In Genesis 39, we're going to just go back a little bit. Verse 2, it says, the Lord was with Joseph and he became successful. His master saw that the Lord was with him and the Lord caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. And verse 5, so that's why from the time that he made Joseph overseer in his house and over all that he had, the Lord blessed Potiphar's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had, the house and the field. So in Potiphar's house, though Joseph was a slave, the Lord was with Joseph. And Joseph was successful and he made Potiphar blessed and successful. And it tells us that, the way that he hang on to, it is wicked to lie with a boss wife. He wanted to stay there. It tells us that Joseph knew somehow that God cared. And he cared about honoring God in return. How about when he was in prison? Same, in verse 21 of chapter 39. It says, the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge because the Lord was with Joseph. And whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed. So even though he was in prison, the Lord was with Joseph and he was favored and he was successful. God always cares. But maybe you are asking, if God cared so much, why didn't he make a prison break for Joseph? Why didn't he have him released? Now, that is the interesting part that we are coming into. Genesis chapter 41. The part that, he was forgotten when he was in prison after the cupbearer was, gone back to his position. So 2 full years he waited in prison. So in chapter 41 it says, Pharaoh dreamed. And Pharaoh was looking for people to interpret his dreams because nobody could do that. And that was the time the cupbearer suddenly remembered. And he said that, I knew this guy in prison who can interpret dreams. So they brought him. And look at Joseph's answer. Even that time, it tells you how much he knew that God was with him. Because he says this to Pharaoh. It is not me that's going to interpret the dreams for you. It is God that will give Pharaoh that favorable answer. He pointed to God about the one that's going to interpret the dreams. And true enough, the interpretation of the dream was beautiful. It was going to be 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine. And not only he interpreted the dreams, Joseph was so wise to give a Pharaoh his proposal. He said that you need a wise guy to watch over your land, and then you need to set overseers so that they can begin to store up grain in these 7 years of plenty, so that in the 7 years of famine, you will have more than enough. So in verse 39, Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all this, there's none that's so discerning and wise as you are in Egypt. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you. So Pharaoh immediately made Joseph his second man. Imagine this, one normal day in the palace, God finally fulfilled all of Joseph's dreams. God cares about his dreams. God cares about his reputation. Because that day he was known as the wisest guy. And needless to say, God cares about him. For many of us, we are just happy once our dreams are achieved and we thought that, yay, thank you very much, God, you care for me, all right, thank you. But for Joseph, that was not the end. You know, in fact, dreams are best interpreted by God himself. If by us, we would just end at where it serves us best. But for God, he always cares about not just your dreams, not just your reputation, not just you. He cares about your purpose and his purpose. So the story went on for 8 more chapters actually after this. And we all knew that the severe famine was really across all the lands, and that brought Joseph's family back to Egypt. And that was when Joseph met his brothers after, 10 years, 13 years, that's right, 13 years. And Joseph had his lifetime opportunity actually to either to take his revenge or to bless them. Now I want you to take a moment and think about if Joseph was not okay, what do you think he would do? Which is why it's okay not to be okay, but don't stay not okay for long. Joseph, in all those moments when he felt not okay, he always came back to realize that God was with him. He may not be okay when he felt like no one cares, but every time when he sees how God cared for him and caused him to prosper and God being with him, released him from all those negative feelings. And you know why? Because now he is ready to do his greatest purpose, which is to save the people at that time during the severe famine. And throughout his life, if one thing we can learn from Joseph is that Joseph cared about what God cared about. So you can read Genesis 42 and 45, all the dramas of their meeting up. And finally, when Joseph revealed himself and his brothers were so afraid, they thought that he was going to kill them. But this is what he said. In verse 4, chapter 45, he says, "Come near to me, please. I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. But now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you saw me here. But God sent me before you to preserve life." Think about the perspective that Joseph had when he was okay. And it's so important to be okay, right? And Genesis 50:20 again, and I thought this is the best verse for me in this whole story about Joseph. You know, when his father died, again the brothers weren't sure if really Joseph had really forgotten their wickedness and how they tried to kill him and killed his dreams. But you know what? In God's hands, no one can kill your dream, because God cares about your dreams. And Joseph was so confident about that. That is why in verse 20 of chapter 50, he said this: "For you meant evil against me, but God, He meant it for good, in order to bring it about as it is this day, to save many people." You know, others may meant evil against you. They didn't care. But God can make all this meant for good, because God cares. You know, someone wrote this in the commentary, and I thought it was so beautiful. It says, if Joseph's family were not messed up, his brother would not have sold him. If the brother had not sold him, he would not have gone to Egypt. If he had not gone to Egypt, he would not have met Potiphar. If he has not met Potiphar, Potiphar's wife would not have falsely accused him. And if she had not falsely accused him, then Joseph would have never been to the prison. And if Joseph were not in prison, he would not have met the cupbearer. And if he had not met the cupbearer of Pharaoh, he would not have interpreted his dreams. And if he had not interpreted his dreams, he would not have been able to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. And if Joseph never interpreted Pharaoh's dream, he would have never become prime minister, the second man in Egypt. And it doesn't stop there. If Joseph never became prime minister, he never would have prepared for the terrible famine. And if he had never prepared for the famine, his family would be back in Canaan and they would have died. And if his family died in a famine, then the Messiah could have not come, because it cannot come from a dead family. And if the Messiah had not come, then Jesus would not have been here. And if Jesus never came, then we are all dead in our sins, without hope in this world. Now I want to invite Keith back to sing this last song, and I want to invite you to meet with him here again, wherever you are. God is not just meeting you at the end, He's meeting you wherever you are, in your pit, in your prison, in your dungeon, in your struggles, in your pain, in your not okay status. God is here to meet with you again.